So I'd like to start my talk today with my favorite quote from Marx, that grand old political philosopher. And before you mob the podium and throw me out, I want to clarify that I'm talking about Groucho. And if you don't like Groucho, I'm going to finish up with a quote from Ayn Rand. So again, something for everyone. Groucho Marx sagely said that politics is the act of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies. I couldn't agree more. And so today I'm going to be explaining to all of you that even though we all love liberty, we can probably do so much more good outside of politics. So I'm going to start by defining a model which identifies three different approaches we could take to improve the world: the teaching approach, the political approach, and the direct approach. Then I'll explain why the political approach is, for most of us, the worst way that we can affect positive change in the world. I'll go into a little bit more detail on the teaching and the direct approach, and then I'm going to pose some questions that each of us need to ask ourselves. First, I want to reiterate something I said yesterday, and in fact, something I say pretty much every year here. I don't repeat this just because I'm looking for filler in my speeches. In fact, I also repeat it because it truly is of crucial importance, and that is, the conference is only as successful as the positive action it inspires. You have to take these ideas, particularly from this panel here, and go out into the world and do something with them. Perhaps not in the political sphere, though. So let's unpack some of the assumptions I'll be working off of. To start, I would wager my top gold-backed cryptocurrency unit that many of us here today like liberty. I'd even go so far as to say that we believe that libertarian policies, if implemented, would create a happier, healthier, wealthier world. Furthermore, I bet that each of us thinks that we've arrived at this belief because we are rational, intelligent, and open-minded people. People who have considered many, if not all, of the evidence and arguments for and against our positions. And now let me raise a rather frightening observation. This pair of claims I've just made could probably apply in only slightly modified form, regardless of which political group I was addressing. Whether I was talking to a room full of conservatives, progressive, centrists, or socialists, every group would say that they were implementing their beliefs based on reason and evidence, and doing so would create a better world. Now, of course, we libertarians actually have reason and evidence on our side, but this observation certainly should give us pause. From all of this, I think we can establish a general model that everyone, with only a few exceptions, should agree on. Now, I'm sure there are some outliers out there who have radically different views of what the best world might look like. But this model works pretty much for everyone who share a desired world and that's happier, wealthier, healthier. All right, so I'm going to talk about the hypothetical best political system, which I will call Gibertarianism. Now, we should all agree that Gibertarianism will produce the best world. Otherwise, it can't be called the best political system. Furthermore, we should expect that sufficiently rational, educated people would successfully identify Gibertarianism as the best political system and therefore implement it. So the model is that if enough people are rational and well-informed, then they choose the best political system and the world becomes awesome. In short, we achieve Gibertopia. Now, enter our three world improvement methods. We can teach people to be more rational so that they pick the best political systems. We can pursue political ends and hopefully create a better world, or we can simply go out and do good things directly. So, teaching, political, and direct approaches. Now, as the Bard said, herein lies the rub. For of the three, the political approach is the most risky and the most difficult. So the difficulty of the political approach comes from the fact that in order to see our preferred policies implemented, we have to convince people of their merit. And politics makes people stupid. Regardless of what they think, most people generate and maintain their political identity by irrational means. More often than not, we pick a team when we're growing up at some point, and we generate our views based on what we believe that our team believes. An otherwise level-headed, intelligent person can be reduced to, quite frankly, a ranting lunatic when they feel that their political team is being threatened, whether it's by a given argument or even a simple undisputed fact or alternative fact. This effect is even stronger when they perceive the argument or fact as being presented by someone who is not of their own political tribe. We are extremely resistant to having our political views challenged and changed directly, which makes the political approach extremely difficult. Now, the risk of the political approach comes from the fact that we too are a political tribe, with all of the dangers inherent in that. We are running the same software as everyone else on these broken meat computers that we call brains. We're just as susceptible to all the cognitive biases of everyone else out there. So we have to accept the very real possibility that we are not the wise exceptions, and that at least some of our political beliefs may be wrong. from either a failure of rationality or simply a lack of knowledge. I told you wouldn't want to clap after you heard me talk. What tragedy it would be to successfully create our ideal government only to look on the end result and recoil in shock terror. So compared to the political method, the teaching method is almost completely safe. Now, to be fair, there are some ways in which a little bit of rationality can be harmful. Basically, when it allows you to become a more effective rationalizer of your terrible beliefs. But by and large, making people more rational results in a better world. They will, on average, pick better policies than their irrational peers. And should they choose to directly improve the world, they'll be able to do that much more good. Making the world more rational is a bit like investing in capital goods. The benefit will be delayed, but in the end, it will act as a value multiplier. So a word on rationality. I'm using it here in the sense of epistemic rationality, which means obtaining beliefs that are as close as possible to actual reality, and instrumental rationality, which is choosing actions that actually move the world closer to where we want it to be. Importantly, I do not mean it in the economic sense or the Spock sense. For the economists in the room, I'm sure you'll agree that rationally economics doesn't have a lot to do with actual rationality. See some people. All right. So I could go on for hours about this, but if you do disagree with my use of the term, I'm happy to discuss it later. Now, the teaching method is incredibly impactful, especially over the long term. And while it is much less risky than the political method, it is almost as difficult. It's difficult to train people to overcome their cognitive biases. It's difficult to train people how to properly apply cost and benefit analysis. And it does involve a fairly high level of economic instruction, which, again, for the economists in the room, you'll know that while most economists aren't very bright, it still takes a lot of effort to learn economics.
That was for the 15-year job.
Yeah, that was. So we have a method, the third method, which is both low risk and surprisingly easy. And in fact, it's so simple, I won't say anything more about it. I will say a few more words about it. The direct approach to improving the world is just going out there and improving the world. So what would that look like? Now, one answer to that question is going to be given by the very next speaker, James Harrison. His talk on effective altruism will explore the ways in which we can live our lives doing the most possible good, which is the essence of the direct approach. I won't try to step on his toes by doing it, but that is basically what the direct approach is, doing the most good possible with our lives. Okay, so the teaching, political, or direct approaches. What is the best way for us to exercise compassion? Do we abandon politics completely and just go on about living our lives as well as possible? Do we pour our resources not into spreading liberty, but spreading rationality? Or should you listen to the advice that I gave you yesterday and get more involved in the liberty movement? And the truth is, I really don't know. I don't think I can answer these questions, certainly not for you, although I'm trying to answer them for myself. It probably depends on your own mix of skills and resources and preferences, right? Now, truthfully, it probably involves a mix of all three of these different approaches, but you have to ask these questions and you have to think about what you're actually accomplishing in the actions you're taking. For example, winning Facebook arguments probably isn't making the world a better place, no matter how satisfying it feels. Now, no matter how you answer these questions, please do something. Don't sit idly by and hope the world just gets better. Don't give up just because the problems we face are difficult. Don't let your fire go out, sparked by irreplaceable spark, in the hopeless swamps of the not quite, the not yet, and the not at all. Do not let the hero in your soul perish in lonely frustration for the life you deserved and have never been able to reach. The world you desire can be won. It exists. It is real. It is possible. It's yours. And that's my Ayn Rand quote and the end of my short talk. Thank you very much.